Hello, baby. Welcome to the Smart People Podcast. Sit back, grab a drink, tune in your brain.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
This nation will rise up.
One giant leap for mankind. 760.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to the first episode of Smart People Podcast in 2011. We hope you enjoyed the past week of drinking, responsibly of course, gorging, and hanging out with in-laws. I'm sure that most of you are like me and you've already broken your New Year's resolution.
Speaking of New Year's resolutions, Roach and I have come up with our own resolution for the Smart People Podcast. And what that is, we want to be a little different than the other podcasts, and we want to let our listeners be heard. Thousands of people download this podcast every day, and we think it's only fair if those of you that make it possible are given a say. So we have a Contact Us link at the top of our website, and we'd like you to go to that, and in the comment box, leave us a comment on who you would like to hear, what you wish was being asked, anything like that. And also, every week we are going to feature a listener segment. It's going to be a short, probably 3 or so minute segment where we're going to call one of you listeners every week and we're going to let you speak, let your voice be heard. Do you have an interesting story you want to tell? Do you have a job that you feel like you should let others know about? Perhaps it's a dirty job or something funny like that. But we just want to give you the opportunity to be heard as you listen to us.
As Chris mentioned earlier, there have literally been thousands of you who have downloaded the podcast. While we do this for free, there are expenses associated with the podcast, so we added an Amazon search feature to the website. You can buy your products through the site, and it will help us out by giving us a small commission, and anything you can do would be greatly appreciated. Now remember, this costs nothing to you. You go to our site, you search for what you're looking for on Amazon, and you buy it just as you normally would, and it would help out the podcast.
And that website address, just for anyone who has a short memory, is smartpeoplepodcast.com. So as Roach mentioned, check us out. All right, so on to today's guest. Our guest today is Mr. Bob Barron. This is a true feel-good tale we have with him. He's been called a living miracle worker. He's been featured on numerous shows from Oprah, the Today Show, ABC World News, Fox. The list goes on and on. Mr. Barron is a 24-year veteran of the Central Intelligence Agency, where he was a senior disguise specialist. And it's kind of hard to explain exactly what he did. The best way to do it is to say, when you saw Mission Impossible and they continually kept pulling off different masks, you didn't know who was who, Mr. Barron is the guy who created those masks in real life. He actually did a better job than they did in Hollywood. They tried to recruit him for the role, but he found that his true meaning was what he did after the Central Intelligence Agency. The interesting thing about him is once he left the CIA, he didn't hang up his shoes and call it a day. He actually started his own business called Custom Prosthetic Designs, where he creates prosthetics for people who have genetic malfunctions, who have had trauma injuries. And the work is, I can't emphasize it enough. It's unbelievable. It is almost undetectable when he creates a prosthesis for somebody. We're so excited to have him on the show and kind of share a little bit about his experiences.
And if you guys find this interview interesting, go ahead over to our website and check out the videos that we'll be posting shortly. I think you'll be blown away by them. As a fair warning, though, the videos are pretty graphic and may not be for the faint of heart.
So here is the interesting tale of Mr. Bob Barron.
When I started in the CIA in 1968, I was working in their graphic arts department, and that's where we reproduced documents and reproduced passports and reproduced anything that you can imagine that you could reproduce, we could. And I became one of their senior forgers. So I wore several different hats. As a matter of fact, at the end of my career, I had 6 passports with six different names. And at times I'd have to get on the plane and look at the passport to see who I was that day. After a few years later, the last 15 years, I was in the disguise department. And the disguise department at first was just traditional disguises, beards, mustaches, wigs, quick change clothing, that sort of thing. But we found out that we could not penetrate as deep as we could and get the intelligence that we needed just with a beard and a mustache. So we started reproducing and looking into silicone and producing silicone masks for agents that depended upon the realism of that disguise to keep them alive. Their lives depended upon the realism, and their lives were in jeopardy if that disguise didn't pass the closest scrutiny of 6 to 12 inches. So, Hollywood didn't come out with it first. To put one of those masks on Tom Cruise, it takes about 3.5 to 4 hours for them to put that on, and for him to take it off, it takes like 3 seconds. But with ours, it had to be put it on in 3 seconds and take it off in 3 seconds and reuse it. So I became their senior disguise specialist. And those sophisticated disguises would be worn by agents that would have to penetrate in areas where you would not even want to penetrate.
Right.
Their lives depended upon that disguise to keep them alive, and I am happy to say that I did not lose one agent at that time.
Well, that's a great accomplishment.
It is, and I cannot tell you where those disguises were used.
Okay.
That's the first thing that the CIA said when I retired. You will not talk about operations, but you can come out from undercover and use your talents in a humanitarian way. And that's the only way that I was able to do what I'm doing. Now, when the agency sent me to New York in 1983, they sent me to the Association of Biomedical Sculptors. And the president of the Association of Biomedical Sculptors was John Chambers, the man that designed the mask for the Planet of the Apes. And he was the only person who knew who I was because I was still undercover. But the agency sent me to the Biomedical Sculptors Association to see if they had any materials that we could use to better our product. And when I found out, what I found out was that we were 5 years ahead of the commercial world. And I also saw quite a few and various disfigurements. People without eyes, people without a face, people without a nose or an ear. And I said, Bob, if you can change somebody's identity, then you can give that identity back to that person who needs your services. Or if you can put someone in hiding, then you can bring that person out of hiding. These people are prisoners in their house for like 10, 15 years. They won't come out. They don't want people staring at them. So I knew 10 years before I retired from the CIA what my second career was going to be. And, there's not a better high than I get coming to work and knowing that I'm going to make a difference in someone's life.
I think that's definitely what everybody searches for. So to be able to find that, that must feel, really fulfilling.
It definitely is. I mean, to know that you're going to give that person back the quality of life they were used to before their differences is just tremendous. There have been at least 24 people that I have, they have contemplated suicide. And without my help, they wouldn't be here today. I was given a talent. Now, I thought that purpose of my life was keeping those agents alive. But I have found out that the good Lord was getting me ready for something far greater than that. And I believe He's going through me to help those who need their life back.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, I do want to talk to you a little bit about your current business. I was wondering if there was anything you would be able to tell us about the operations you were doing, or if you have an example of what you had created or how it was used or anything like that.
not at all. I cannot discuss that at all.
Okay. All right. I respect that privacy. Just wondering if I could get something out of you.
No, because I'm still sworn under a secrecy agreement.
Right. Okay.
And if I break that agreement, I'll be wearing stripes
Right.
for the rest of my life. And
Nobody's asking.
I like a nice pinstripe suit, not the ones that you can see from 2 miles away.
Absolutely. Okay, why don't you tell us about some of the stories or projects you've done for custom prosthetic designs that stick with you?
Well, on Oprah, there was a gentleman by the name of Tim Dunaway, and he was in a serious boat accident and caved his face in, and he almost died from it. And I designed a nose for him, but when he was on Oprah, he was going to get married before the accident, and he just didn't want to get married after his face was all messed up. And he came to me, and he was also one who had contemplated suicide. And if his sister had not had seen me on TV on another program with Charles Gibson, he wouldn't be here today. So he called me, and he came to me, and I fabricated a prosthetic nose for him. He was on Oprah, and his girlfriend was there as well, and he proposed to her on the stage.
Oh, wow.
But the other one gave a man of mid-face that had cancer, lost his cheeks, his nose, his upper lip, and he is a survivor, the only survivor out of 6 of the rare cancers in the world. So it's just something that is just a very good thing. I received a little letter from a Christmas card from Eric, and he says, "I'm in the 3rd grade now. You made my ear when I was in 1st grade. My dad puts my ear on in the morning. I really like my ear. People used to say, 'What's wrong with your ear?' But now they don't. What I really like about it is that whenever I show it to a grown-up, they say, 'Whoever made that is really good.' Thank you for changing my life. I wanted to write to you earlier, but I didn't know how to write so good."
Oh, wow. That's pretty funny.
You know, if that doesn't bring your hair up on your arms,
Right.
nothing will. And that's what keeps me going.
I wanted to ask too if does the agency still, I guess, have patents or rights to any of the processes or procedures or materials that you use?
I could use my talents. I could use what I created. I think my forte was mastering the technique of making silicone look like skin. So
that's what I was going to wonder, is the process of how you create these things.
Well, the process, there are various steps of creating an ear. Like there's 175 steps on creating an ear. But when you see the final composition, if you see the final ear, you go, "Oh yeah, okay, that's good," but you don't have any idea what goes into making that ear look like skin. I had one patient called me and he says, "Mr. Barron, something funny just happened to me." And I said, "What's that, sir?" He says, "I just went to the barber and the barber cut the hair out of my prosthetic ear." And I said, "Well, that's pretty good." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, he was that close and he cut the hair that I put in there in your prosthetic ear. And he said, "Well, yeah, but can you put the hair back in my ear for me?" But, realism is what it's all about. Ear reconstructive surgery is the most awful thing that a doctor can put a child through. The outcome always falls short of everyone's expectation. And ear reconstructive surgery is just something that they should rethink before they start messing a child's life up. They wouldn't, I'm sure, practice on their own grandson and granddaughter. But, there are plastic surgeons out there that are great in certain things that they do, but they're not great in everything that they do. And one of them is trying to reconstruct an ear. It can't be done. You can't put the color in skin grafts. You can't make all those very fine layers of tissue in an ear. I mean, feel your ear. Feel how thin it is. Okay. It won't, the skin will not live. So they take rib cartilage and carve it, put it up there and pull skin around it and say, okay, there's your ear. And somebody will say, well, it kind of looks like an ear. Kind of is not going to work, because in the agency, when I designed a full face mask for an agent, it had to pass my close scrutiny before I would issue it to that agent. I would say, okay, Bob, would you wear this? Is your life going to be in jeopardy? Is it going to attract attention more than distract attention?
Right.
Or is it going to distract attention more than, which is it going to be, Bob? Because if you issue that to someone and you know you shouldn't, and that person doesn't come back, you got a lot riding on your shoulders, man.
Exactly.
You're going to have nightmares at night.
Yep.
You don't hear about those agents that don't come back. And if they are caught, the agency does not know you.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
They do not know you. Who? No. No, we don't know him. We don't know her.
Right.
No, that's why I had to be as professional as I am, because I had to look at it that way. So if you would have anything else that you would like to mention.
No, I think that about covers it. Can you tell our listeners what your website is and where they can find you and anything you'd like them to know?
My website is www.prosthesis.com. I'm located in Ashburn, Virginia. I would appreciate if you know anyone out there that need my services. It's not for me so much. It's for that individual who I can make a difference in their life. So thanks, Chris, John, and Merry Christmas to you both.
Merry Christmas.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye now.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and taking a listen. Want to remind you again, go to our site, bottom left-hand corner, click on the Amazon button. That is literally it. Go search Amazon all day. Whatever you buy, gives us a little commission, helps us out, and is no cost to you. You will not even notice.
And as always, wanted to thank The Outdoors for the music on the podcast. You can find them at outdoorsmusic.com, and you can also find them on Twitter at The Outdoors Band. We were asked to create a Facebook page, so we now have a Facebook fan page for the Smart People Podcast. Go on there, like us, and get to know other Smart People Podcast listeners.
It's smartpeoplepodcast.com.
In the middle of the street, riding on the mirror, your crazy belief. It builds up slow, and I watch it go. I'm just drifting. Let the show begin. You're like a broken record. You're gonna strike again with something worse than lightning. Oh, I'm caught in a storm. Focus on the fear.